Hey, what's up, guys? I'm reading in Acts again today. I'm in chapter 12. I was just reading through kind of like the first half of chapter 12. Um, and it's just after Herod had killed James, the brother of John, and then he had seized Peter and thrown him in prison as well. He delivered him, it says in verse 4 in chapter 12, that he delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to keep him, intending to bring him before the people at the Passover, after Passover, excuse me. And in verse 5 it says, Peter was therefore kept in prison, but constant prayer was offered to God for him by the church. And when Herod was about to bring him out, that night Peter was sleeping, bound with 2 chains between 2 soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. And like this verse I love because it reaches even further into depth. Like in verse 4 it says they delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers, so he's already in custody of 4 squads of Roman soldiers, which at the time is very excessive, especially for one man. But I think that already proves that we know Herod's concern or fear that the power of God is able to reach into this situation. So just know, even if you're surrounded by 4 squads of soldiers, you know, the enemy that is surrounding you is already afraid that God's going to break you out. So I love that because that just hits right now. Um, and then it says he was bound with 2 chains between 2 soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. So he was chained twice between 2 people as he was sleeping, and then still on the outside of the door there were guards keeping the prison. And this is there's so much meat to this for me. I just feel like because like even in that situation, even in that inescapable prison, right? Just like Paul and Silas were in the inner prison in the stocks. Like it doesn't matter how many physical binds or bounds that we have, how many physical chains or weights that weigh us down or contain us, because verse 7 speaks to how God reaches in and pulls us out despite those things. So in verse 7 it says, Now behold, an angel of the Lord stood by him, and a light shone in the prison. And he struck Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise quickly. And his chains fell off his hands. Then the angel said to him, Gird yourself and tie on your sandals. And so he did. And he said to him, Put on your garment and follow me. So he went out and followed him, and did not know that what was done by the angel was real, but thought he was seeing a vision. And this is what I love about God, because sometimes his freeing of us, his freedom from captivity for us, is so surreal that we don't even believe it's happening. And I think that's part of our responsibility, is to understand that we are free, to understand that when he does these works, we're free of that. Because even Peter in this case, you know, he was asleep, so he's a little drowsy obviously, but even Peter didn't understand that this was real, right? Because he said this, I mean, he knew the situation was grim, he knew he was surrounded, and yet at the same time God reached in, pulled him out, and Peter didn't believe it at first. But it says down in verse 11, when Peter had come to himself, he said, Now I know for certain that the Lord sent his angel and has delivered me from the hand of Herod and from all the expectation of the Jewish people. He knows for certain because there is not anybody else that could have done this but God. There is nobody else that can break you out of your prison like God can. There is nobody else that can take down those walls. No matter the guards, no matter the chains, no matter what it is, there's nobody like God that can pull off all of those weights and set you free. And that's what I love about this text, is it just speaks to no matter how deep in this prison you are, that there's always hope. And I like it too because back in verse 6 it says, And when Herod was about to bring him out, that night Peter was sleeping. So on the verge of when you think you're about to break, on that last straw, that last thing, if one more thing happens today, if one more thing goes wrong, if one more person rejects me or refuses me, if I'm stressed about one more thing, I'm just going to collapse. And then all of a sudden God comes in and sweeps you out of that prison. But it is then our responsibility to understand that we're no longer living in that prison, because the angel told him what to do, but he didn't carry him out, right? He told him how to get out of the situation. He said, Arise quickly. And when he arose, his chains fell off. He didn't set him free first. He didn't break the chains and then tell him to stand up. He said, Arise. And as Peter followed in obedience and listened, that's when his chains fell off. And then he said, Gird yourself and tie on your sandals. And so he did. He followed that instruction. And follow me. So he went out and followed him. And then he was led out by the angel of God. So understand that there is an aspect and responsibility of obedience even when God is breaking us out of our prisons. So keep that in mind. But this is a very encouraging word that I loved, and I just hope that this brings some light to some of your situations as it has mine. And I'm just excited to share God's word. As always, God bless you guys. Thank you so much.